One female pharaoh might have ordered a hit on her own brother, who was also her husband. Another wore a strap-on beard and declared herself king, ruling over a golden age. There was a queen who, ancient stories whisper, avenged her brother's murder by inviting his killers to a grand banquet only to flood the chamber with river water. And get this, one of Egypt's most iconic female rulers, whose beauty and brains captivated Roman generals, wasn't even Egyptian by birth but Greek. These women didn't just sit on thrones. They commanded armies, built towering monuments, and shaped religious worship, sometimes against all odds, leaving legacies that could have steered Egypt's destiny down entirely different paths. Number 13. Nitocris, the vengeful queen of legend. Nitocris is a shadowy figure from Egypt's Old Kingdom, specifically the 6th Dynasty, around 2180 BCE. If she truly existed as a ruling queen, she would be one of the earliest female pharaohs. The ancient Greek historian Herodotus wrote about her painting a picture of a queen seeking terrible revenge. According to his tale, Nitocris became queen after her brother, the king, was murdered by his subjects. To avenge him, she supposedly constructed a huge underground chamber. She then invited all those she believed responsible for his death to a great banquet within this hidden room. As they feasted, Nitocris, the story goes, opened a secret channel and let the waters of the Nile rush in, drowning all her guests. After this act of vengeance, Herodotus claims she committed suicide by throwing herself into a room filled with hot ashes or embers to escape any retaliation. The Egyptian historian Manetho, writing centuries later, also lists Nitocris as a ruler and credits her with adding to the Pyramid of Menkaure at Giza. However, direct archaeological evidence from Egypt itself for Nitocris as a ruling pharaoh is very scarce, almost non-existent. No contemporary inscriptions clearly name her as king. Her name appears in the Turin King list, a papyrus from the New Kingdom, but the entry is damaged. Did she truly rule? Was she a potent force who brought a chaotic period to a grim end? Or a legend born from a time of turmoil? If she did rule with such decisiveness, even if briefly, she represented a moment where female power took absolute control, potentially setting a precedent that was either suppressed or simply not followed for centuries. Her story, fact or fiction, speaks to a volatile time when Egypt's future hung in the balance, and a woman might have briefly and brutally held its fate. Number 12. Merneith, the First Lady of the Tomb. Travel way back to Egypt's First Dynasty, around 3000 BC. Here we find Merneith, a name that echoes with ancient power. We're not entirely sure if Merneith ruled as a pharaoh in her own right, or if she was a queen consort and then a regent for her son, Den-Perod. But the clues she left behind are seriously impressive for a woman of her time. Merneith was buried at Abydos, the necropolis of Egypt's earliest kings, in a tomb that was just as grand as those of male rulers. Her tomb complex included subsidiary burials, usually reserved for retainers to serve the pharaoh in the afterlife. Inside her tomb, archaeologists found objects bearing her name, but significantly, her name also appeared on a seal impression alongside the names of other First Dynasty kings. This suggests she held a very special, officially recognized status. Her name was even enclosed in a serac, a palace facade, emblem typically used for kings, though sometimes without the Horus falcon on top, which signified kingship. What's more, her name appears on artifacts found in the tomb of her son, Den, further linking her to the royal succession. Did Merneith take the reins of power when her husband Digit died and her son was too young to rule? If so, she would have been one of the very first women in recorded history to wield such supreme authority. Her existence and the honors afforded to her in death suggest that in the foundational period of the Egyptian state, a woman could hold a position of immense power, perhaps even kingship. If she truly ruled, she set a precedent for female leadership at the very dawn of Egyptian civilization, a path that could have normalized female pharaohs far earlier if her example had been more explicitly followed. Number 11. Khentkaus I, the Mother King. Deep in the Old Kingdom, during the transition between the 4th and 5th dynasties, around 2500 BCE, stands Queen Khentkaus I. Her story is fascinating because of the mystery surrounding her exact titles and status. She was clearly a royal woman of immense importance. She was the wife of one pharaoh, Shepseskaf or Userkaf, the mother of two more pharaohs, Sahure and Nefertari, and possibly even the daughter of a pharaoh, Menkaure. But was she more than just a queen consort and royal mother? Her tomb complex at Giza is unique. It's a step pyramid-like structure, not a typical queen's mastaba. And it has its own solar boat pit and valley temple, features usually associated with pharaohs. Inscriptions at her tomb give her some very unusual titles. One particularly debated title is Mut Nesu Biti Nesu Biti, which can be translated as Mother of Two Kings of Upper and Lower Egypt, or, more controversially, as King of Upper and Lower Egypt and Mother of the King of Upper and Lower Egypt. Did she rule as pharaoh herself, perhaps as a regent for one of her sons, or even as a monarch in her own right during a period of transition? Some scholars believe she may have been the crucial link that legitimized the new 5th dynasty. If Khentkaus I did indeed rule as king, even for a short time, she would have been a pivotal figure ensuring dynastic stability and continuity. Her reign, if it occurred, could have solidified the idea of female succession or co-rule in one of Egypt's most formative periods, potentially altering the strict patrilineal succession that became the norm. Her grand tomb and ambiguous titles hint at a woman who wielded power far beyond that of a typical queen, a kingmaker, or perhaps a king herself. Number 10. Sobekneferu, the crocodile queen who claimed the double crown. Meet Sobekneferu, the first undisputed female pharaoh of Egypt to rule with her full royal titulary. She reigned at the end of the glorious 12th Dynasty, around 1806 to 1802 BC, a period known for its stability and artistic achievements. Sobekneferu came to power after the death of her brother, Amenemhat IV, who apparently left no male heirs. This was a critical moment. The dynasty was at its end. Instead of the kingdom collapsing into chaos or a new family taking over immediately, Sobekneferu stepped up. Her name itself is significant, meaning the beauty is Sobek, honoring the crocodile god Sobek, which was unusual for a pharaoh's principal name, and highlighted her connection to the Fayum region, a center of Sobek's cult. While she used feminine titles, she also adopted the full pharaonic regalia, including in some depictions, elements of male attire, though often combined with female dress. Statues show her wearing the royal Nima's headdress and kilt, but with a clearly female form. She is credited with building projects at Heracleopolis Magna and continuing work at the funerary complex of Amenemhat III at Hawara, known as the Labyrinth. Her reign, though short, around 4 years according to the Turin King list, was a recognized and legitimate rule. However, she was the last ruler of her dynasty. She left no recorded heir, and after her death, the powerful 12th dynasty ended, and Egypt transitioned into the less stable Second Intermediate period. What if Sobekneferu had ruled longer or managed to secure a successor? Could she have prolonged the golden age of the Middle Kingdom or guided Egypt more smoothly into its next phase? Her reign proved a woman could officially hold the highest office. but its brevity meant this precedent didn't immediately reshape the long-term succession patterns. Number 9. Ahhotep I, the warrior queen who fought for Egypt. Ahhotep I was a powerhouse queen from the late Second Intermediate Period and early New Kingdom, around 1560 to 1530 BCE. She lived during a turbulent time when much of Egypt was under the control of the Hyksos, foreign rulers from Western Asia. Ahhotep was the wife of Pharaoh Khentkaus I and the mother of two future pharaohs, Khentkaus and Ahmose I, the latter being the founder of the glorious 18th Dynasty. While her husband and son fought to expel the Hyksos and reunify Egypt, Ahhotep played a crucial role. An inscription by Ahmose I at the Karnak Temple praises her extensively. It says she cared for Egypt's army, looked after her soldiers, brought back her fugitives and gathered up her deserters, and pacified Upper Egypt and cast out her rebels. These are not typical praises for a queen consort. They suggest active military and political involvement. She was essentially holding the fort and rallying support in Thebes, while the men were on campaign. She was even awarded the Order of the Golden Fly, a military decoration given for valor in battle, 3 of which were found in her original tomb at Dra Abu el Naga. These golden flies are large and beautifully crafted, signifying extraordinary bravery. Ahhotep I's influence was so profound that she was instrumental in maintaining stability in Upper Egypt, allowing her sons to eventually defeat the Hyksos. Her actions ensured the Theban royal family could launch their successful war of liberation. Without her strength and leadership from the home front, Egypt might have remained divided, or the rise of the new kingdom. Egypt's imperial age might have been delayed or taken a different course. She demonstrated that a queen could be a decisive military and political force, shaping the very destiny of the nation. Number 8. Ahmose-Nefertari, the divine matriarch of a golden age. Ahmose-Nefertari was one of the most revered women in Egyptian history. She was the sister wife of Ahmose I, the pharaoh who completed the expulsion of the Hyksos and founded the 18th Dynasty, circa 1550 to 1525 BCE, ushering in the New Kingdom, Egypt's era of greatest power and influence. Ahmose-Nefertari was not just a queen. She was a figure of immense religious and economic importance. She was the first royal woman to hold the powerful title of God's Wife of Amun. This wasn't just an honorary title. It came with significant duties, estates, and influence within the increasingly powerful cult of the god Amun at Thebes. As God's wife, she played a key role in religious festivals and was considered the divine consort of the god, which linked the royal family directly to the chief deity of the state. This position gave her considerable economic power through control of temple lands and resources. She was also a regent for her young son, Ahmose-Hotep I. After Ahmose I's death, guiding the early years of his reign, her influence was so great that she and Ahmose-Hotep I were later deified and became patron deities of the Theban necropolis, worshipped for centuries by the artisans and workers who built the royal tombs in the Valley of the Kings. Her legacy shaped the role of royal women for generations. By establishing the prominence of the god's wife of Amun, she created a powerful office for queens that provided them with independent authority and wealth, allowing them to influence state affairs significantly. Her leadership and religious innovations helped stabilize the new dynasty and set the stage for the imperial glories to come, ensuring Egypt's destiny as a major world power. Number 7. Hatshepsut, the king, who was a woman. Hatshepsut is perhaps the most famous female pharaoh after Cleopatra. She ruled during the 18th dynasty for over 2 decades. from approximately 1479 to 1458 BCE, a period of peace and great prosperity for Egypt, originally regent for her young stepson, Thutmose III, Hatshepsut took the bold step of having herself crowned pharaoh, adopting the full royal titulary and even being depicted in statues and reliefs with male royal regalia, including the kilt, crown, and traditional false beard. This wasn't just a power grab. It was a carefully managed assertion of her right to rule, likely supported by powerful officials. Her reign was marked by extensive building programs, the most famous being her magnificent mortuary temple at Deir el-Bahri in Thebes, an architectural marvel that still impresses visitors today. She also re-established trade networks that had been disrupted during the Hyksos occupation, most notably launching a famous expedition to the distant land of Punt, likely modern-day Eritrea or Somerley, which brought back incense, ebony, ivory, gold, and exotic animals. This voyage boosted Egypt's economy and international prestige. Hatshepsut's inscriptions emphasize her peaceful reign and her devotion to the gods, particularly Amun, claiming his divine sanction for her rule. She effectively governed Egypt as a strong and capable pharaoh. After her death, Thutmose III, who became a great warrior pharaoh, eventually ordered many of her images and cartouches to be erased or usurped. The reasons for this are debated, perhaps to legitimize his own line or to erase the anomaly of a female king. Despite this, Hatshepsut's successful and lengthy reign proved unequivocally that a woman could rule Egypt just as effectively as a man, potentially paving the way for future female rulers, if her memory hadn't been suppressed. Her time in power could have fundamentally altered traditional succession, but the subsequent erasure attempted to reset that narrative. Number 6. Neferneferu, the Mystery Queen of Amarna. The Amarna period, during the reign of Akhenaten, circa 1353 to 1336 BCE, was a time of radical religious and artistic upheaval in Egypt. Akhenaten famously abandoned Egypt's traditional pantheon in favor of worshipping a single deity, the Aten, or sun disk. Amidst this revolution, a mysterious royal figure named Ahhotep appears in the records, ruling as pharaoh for a short period towards the end of the Amarna period, or just after Akhenaten's death. Who was Neferneferu? The identity is still hotly debated by Egyptologists. One strong candidate is Nefertiti, Akhenaten's great royal wife, who was a prominent figure throughout his reign and depicted with unusual power and status, sometimes even shown smiting enemies, a pose usually reserved for pharaohs. Another possibility is Meritaten, Akhenaten, and Nefertiti's eldest daughter. Some inscriptions give Neferneferu feminine epithets, like effective for her husband. Whoever she was, Neferneferu seems to have ruled as a legitimate pharaoh, possibly as a co-regent with Akhenaten in his later years, or as an independent ruler bridging the gap before Tutankhamun came to the throne. There's evidence suggesting Neferneferu might have begun the process of reconciliation with the old Amun priesthood, perhaps realizing that Akhenaten's religious revolution was unsustainable. If Neferneferu was indeed Nefertiti, her assumption of pharaonic power would have been a remarkable development, demonstrating her immense influence. Her brief reign, had it been longer and more decisive in its religious policy, could have managed the transition away from Atenism more smoothly, perhaps preserving some aspects of the Amarna artistic and religious innovations, or leading Egypt into a different kind of restoration than the one undertaken by Tutankhamun and his successors. The mystery of Neferneferu highlights a critical, uncertain juncture in Egyptian history. Number 5. Tuzret, the last true pharaoh of a mighty dynasty. Queen Tuzret, also Tausret, holds the distinction of being the last native pharaoh of Egypt's illustrious 19th dynasty, the dynasty of great rulers like Seti I, and Ramesses II. She reigned around 1191 to 1189 BC, a time of increasing instability and internal power struggles. Tazret's path to the throne was complex. She was the great royal wife of Pharaoh Seti II. When Seti II died, his young son Siptah, who was not Tuzret's child and suffered from a debilitating condition, possibly polio, evidenced by his mummy, became pharaoh. Tazret initially served as regent for Siptah, alongside a powerful chancellor named Bey, who was of Syrian origin. However, after Siptah's death, Tazret assumed full pharaonic power, adopting the titles and regalia of a king. She counted her regnal years from the death of Seti II, effectively erasing Siptah's independent reign from the record, or incorporating it into her own. She had a tomb prepared for herself in the Valley of the Kings, KV-14, a grand sepulchre originally started for Seti II, then adapted for her and Siptah, and finally solely for her as pharaoh. Her reign was short, lasting perhaps 2 or 3 years as sole ruler. It ended in turmoil, possibly overthrown by Setnakht, the founder of the 20th Dynasty. Setnakht later usurped Tuzret's tomb for his own burial. Tuzret's attempt to maintain the lineage of the 19th Dynasty and rule in her own right came at a very difficult time for Egypt, with internal strife and possible external threats. Had she been able to secure her throne and rule for a longer period, she might have stabilized the dynasty and prevented the decline that marked the later New Kingdom. Her reign represents a final, determined effort by a woman to hold Egypt together at the end of a powerful era. Number 4. Ahhotep II Philadelphus, the queen who became a goddess and ruled with her brother. Ahhotep II was a formidable Ptolemaic princess who lived from around 316 BC to 270–268 BCE. The Ptolemaic dynasty of Macedonian Greek origin ruled Egypt after its conquest by Alexander the Great. Ahhotep II was the daughter of Ptolemy I, Soter, the founder of the dynasty. Her life was a masterclass in political maneuvering and power consolidation. She was first married to Lysimachus, king of Thrace, Asia Minor, and Macedon. After his death and a series of dramatic, often violent dynastic struggles that saw her outwit rivals and even allegedly arrange the murder of one of her son's co-heirs, she returned to Egypt. There, in an unprecedented move for both Greek and Egyptian tradition at the time, she married her full brother, Ptolemy II Philadelphus. This brother-sister marriage, while shocking to the Greek world, echoed ancient Egyptian pharaonic practices. Ahhotep II wasn't just a passive queen consort. She shared power with Ptolemy II, receiving titles like King of Upper and Lower Egypt alongside him. She was depicted in pharaonic style on monuments, and coins were issued with her image. She actively participated in foreign policy and was a patron of arts and learning. Her influence was immense, so much so that after her death, Ptolemy II instituted a ruler cult for her, deifying her as Arsinoe Philadelphus. Arsinoe, the brother, loving. Towns were named Arsinoe in her honor, and she was worshipped as a goddess across Egypt and the Greek world. Her political acumen and co-rule with her brother significantly strengthened the Ptolemaic dynasty's hold on Egypt and enhanced its prestige abroad. By embracing both Greek and Egyptian modes of power and presentation, she helped forge a unique Ptolemaic identity and set a precedent for powerful queens within the dynasty, profoundly shaping Egypt's Hellenistic destiny. Number 3. Bernice III, Cleopatra Bernice. The briefly reigning queen beloved by the people. Berenice III, also known as Cleopatra Berenice, had a life filled with Ptolemaic dynastic intrigue and a brief but significant period as sole ruler of Egypt. She lived from around 120 BC to 80 BC. She was the daughter of Ptolemy IX, Soter II, and Cleopatra Selene I. Her early life saw her caught in the complex power struggles between her father and her uncle, Ptolemy X, Alexander I. She first married her uncle, Ptolemy X, and ruled alongside him. When he was expelled from Alexandria by the citizens and later killed, Berenice III may have ruled alone for a short time before her father, Ptolemy IX, returned to power. After her father's death in 81 BC, Berenice III inherited the throne and ruled as sole pharaoh for about 6 months. During this brief solo reign, she was reportedly very popular with the Alexandrian populace. Her legitimacy and popularity were strong. However, the Roman Republic and increasing power in the Mediterranean had its own ideas about Egyptian succession. The Roman general Sulla pressured Egypt to accept Ptolemy XI, Alexander II, Berenice's cousin and stepson, son of Ptolemy X, as her co-ruler and husband. Ptolemy XI was living in Rome and was seen as someone Rome could control. 19 days after their marriage, Ptolemy XI had Berenice III murdered, apparently fearing her popularity and power. This act enraged the Alexandrians, who then dragged Ptolemy XI from the palace and killed him in the street. Berenice III's short solo reign was a tantalizing glimpse of a popular, legitimate female pharaoh holding power in a turbulent period. Had she not been forced into the marriage with Ptolemy XI, or had she outmaneuvered him, her popular rule could have brought a period of stability to Egypt and perhaps lessened Roman interference, potential Roman annexation. Number 2. Berenice IV, Epiphania, the rebel queen who defied her father. Berenice IV Epiphania was a Ptolemaic queen who boldly seized power in Egypt while her father was away. Born around 77 BC-E, she was the daughter of Ptolemy XII, Aletes, Cleopatra VII's father. Ptolemy XII was a deeply unpopular ruler, seen as a Roman puppet, and was eventually forced to flee Egypt for Rome in 58 BCE due to a popular uprising in Alexandria. With her father gone, the Alexandrians proclaimed Berenice IV and her possibly elder sister Cleopatra VI, Tryphena, as joint rulers. After Cleopatra VI, Tryphena's death shortly thereafter, or if she never co-ruled, Berenice IV became the sole queen of Egypt. She needed a husband and co-ruler to legitimize her reign further, especially in the eyes of powerful external players like Rome. She first married a Seleucid prince, Seleucus VII Kitibiosactes, but reportedly had him strangled because she found him uncouth. She then married Archelaus, a high priest and nobleman from Cappadocia. For about 3 years, Berenice IV ruled Egypt, seemingly with popular support, independent of her father and Rome. However, Ptolemy XII was busy in Rome, using bribery and political maneuvering to secure Roman military support to reclaim his throne. In 55 BC, the Roman general Aulus Gabinius invaded Egypt, defeated Archelaus's forces. Archelaus himself was killed in battle and restored Ptolemy XII to power. Once back on the throne, Ptolemy XII had Berenice IV executed. Berenice IV's bold reign represented a serious attempt to break free from her father's unpopular rule and potentially steer Egypt away from increasing Roman domination. Had she successfully repelled her father and secured Roman acquiescence or found a stronger ally, Egypt's destiny under her independent rule might have been very different, perhaps delaying or even averting its eventual absorption into the Roman Empire. Number 1. Cleopatra, the seventh Philopator, the last pharaoh who dazzled the world. Cleopatra VII, the last pharaoh of Egypt, is undoubtedly one of history's most iconic and powerful women. She reigned from 51 BC to 30 BC, during a tumultuous period when the Roman Republic was expanding its power across the Mediterranean. Cleopatra was not Egyptian by blood. She was of Macedonian Greek descent, a member of the Ptolemaic dynasty. However, she was one of the few Ptolemaic rulers who reportedly learned to speak Egyptian and embraced Egyptian customs and religion, presenting herself as the reincarnation of the goddess Isis. This helped her gain the support of her Egyptian subjects. She ascended the throne at 18, initially co-ruling with her younger brother Ptolemy XIII. Forced out by his court, she famously allied herself with the Roman general Julius Caesar, who helped restore her to power. Their political alliance also became a personal one, and she bore him a son, Caesarion. Cleopatra aimed to restore Egypt's former glory and maintain its independence from the encroaching power of Rome. After Caesar's assassination, she formed another critical alliance with the Roman general Mark Antony. Their partnership was both political and romantic, and they had 3 children together. They envisioned a grand Eastern empire ruled from Alexandria. However, their ambitions clashed with those of Caesar's heir, Octavian, later Emperor Augustus. Octavian waged a propaganda war against Cleopatra, portraying her as a dangerous foreign seductress, corrupting Antony. Conflict culminated in the naval battle of Actium in 31 BCE, where Antony and Cleopatra's forces were defeated. Facing capture by Octavian, both Antony and Cleopatra chose suicide in Alexandria in 30 BC. Cleopatra's death marked the end of the Ptolemaic dynasty and the end of Egypt's independence for nearly 2,000 years as it became a Roman province. Had she and Antony succeeded against Octavian, the Roman world and Egypt's destiny could have been dramatically different, potentially shifting the center of power eastward and preserving a Hellenistic Egyptian empire